Amara stood in front of her bedroom mirror in Chicago, smoothing down the pretty blue dress with flowers she had bought just for this trip. The soft blue color made her eyes look even brighter. She had spent a whole hour doing her makeup, just enough to look beautiful, but not too much since she was traveling. She wanted to look perfect when they arrived in Paris. "This is it," she whispered to herself as she touched the gold necklace Jude had given her last Christmas. "Tonight, everything changes." Her suitcase was open on the bed. She had packed it carefully with all the clothes she had saved money for months to buy. There was a red dress for dinner at the restaurant on the Eiffel Tower, a white sundress for walking along the Seine River, and a black cocktail dress for what she thought would be a very special night, the night she was sure Jude would ask her to marry him. Her phone buzzed with a message from her sister, Nina. "Have the best time. Can't wait to see engagement photos." Amara smiled and typed back, "Don't jinx it, but I have a really good feeling about this trip." She was so sure Jude was planning to propose. He had been talking about their future a lot lately. He had been taking secret phone calls that he said were for work, and he even bought first-class plane tickets for their trip. He told her she deserved to be spoiled. Even his mom had been nicer to Amara lately, which was a miracle. They had been together for 3 years, and Amara had never felt happier or more sure about their love. Yes, Jude had been working late, a lot. Yes, he had been distracted during their last few dates. But Amara thought he was just nervous and planning something special. Men weren't good at keeping secrets, especially romantic ones. The ride to the airport was perfect. Traffic was light, her flight was on time, and Jude sent her a text saying he was running late because of a client dinner, but would meet her at the gate. Everything felt like it was falling into place, just like she dreamed. She arrived at the airport 2 hours early because she was too excited to wait at home. She checked in, went through security easily, and found the gate for their flight. The departure board said Flight 447 to Paris was leaving at 12:15 a.m., Seats 2A and 2B were side by side, just like their future. Amara called Jude twice while she waited, but his phone went straight to voicemail. That wasn't unusual. His phone often died, and his work dinners could run late. She wasn't worried. Not yet. At 11:30, Amara went to the bathroom to fix her makeup. She wanted to look perfect when Jude arrived. She wanted his face light up when he saw her. She touched up her lipstick, brushed her hair, and checked her phone one more time. That's when her heart broke. A message popped up at exactly 11:47 p.m. "Can't do this anymore. Sorry. Don't hate me." Amara stared at her phone. She thought maybe she read it wrong. Maybe he sent it to the wrong person. Jude wouldn't do this. He couldn't break up with her over text. Not tonight. Not when they were about to fly to Paris in less than half an hour. She called him immediately. Voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Her hands shook as she typed back. "What do you mean? Where are you? We're supposed to be on a plane." The message showed as delivered, but he didn't read it. Amara felt like she couldn't stand anymore. She sank down against the bathroom wall. Around her, women were chatting, washing their hands, and fixing their makeup. Life was going on around her, but hers felt like it had stopped. She thought about calling Nina, but what would she say? That the man she thought would be her husband just dumped her in a text message? That she was stuck at the airport at midnight with a suitcase full of romantic dreams and nowhere to go? She wiped her tears and forced herself to walk back to the gate. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe his phone was hacked, maybe he was stuck in traffic and panicking, maybe he sent that message to the wrong person. But when she got to gate 15, Jude wasn't there. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're now boarding Flight 447 to Paris. First-class passengers, please come forward." Amara stood frozen. First-class passengers walked past her. A sweet older couple holding hands, a businessman scrolling through his phone, a young woman her age smiling and texting about how excited she was to see Paris. Everyone had someone waiting for them. Everyone had a reason to get on that plane. Amara had nothing. She called Jude again, her finger hovering over his name. The phone rang twice, then went to voicemail. He declined her call. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a glitch. Jude had chosen this moment, knowing she was at the airport, knowing she had planned and saved for months to leave her. Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Paris. Amara stood at the window, watching as the last passengers disappeared down the jetway. The gate agent shut down her desk. Soon, the plane would take off, carrying 2 empty first-class seats, 2A and 2B, to the city Amara thought she would see tonight. She wandered through the airport in a daze, pulling her suitcase behind her. The late-night airport crowd was different. Business travelers, international passengers, and people with places to be. Amara had nowhere to go. She found an empty gate, 23B, where a flight to Denver had left hours ago. She sat in a hard chair and finally let herself cry. 3 years. Gone. 3 years of loving Jude, of trusting him when he said he loved her too. 3 years of believing his hints about proposing in Paris. She scrolled through their old texts. Just yesterday, he'd written, "Can't wait for our trip, babe. It's going to be amazing." 2 days ago, "You're going to love Paris. I have surprises planned." "Excuse me, miss." The voice was deep, warm, and kind. Amara looked up, tears still on her face. A man stood a little ways away, his hands clasped behind his back so he wouldn't seem scary. What kind of person, she thought bitterly, plans surprises while planning to break up with someone? What kind of person lets his girlfriend board a plane alone? Her phone buzzed. A notification. "We're sorry you missed Flight 447 to Paris. Please contact customer service to reschedule." Reschedule? As if she had anyone to reschedule with. She turned off her phone. The man was tall and handsome, probably in his late 20s, with perfectly styled dark hair. He wore a charcoal suit that looked very expensive, and his shoes cost more than her rent. But his warm brown eyes were what she noticed most. They looked truly kind. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said softly with a slight accent. "You seem upset. Are you okay?" Amara wiped her tears, smudging her makeup. "I'm fine," she said, her voice shaky. "Just waiting for someone." The man glanced at the empty gate and gave her a small smile. "At gate 23B, that flight left 2 hours ago." Amara's cheeks burned. Of course he noticed. She probably looked like exactly what she was, a woman left behind. "You're right," she admitted. "The person I was waiting for isn't coming. Ever again, apparently." The man's expression softened. Not pity, but understanding, like he knew exactly how it felt to be betrayed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That's really hard, especially at this time of night." Amara let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, I guess 3 years doesn't mean as much to some people as it does to others." The man was silent for a moment. Then he asked gently, "Can I sit with you? I promise I'm not trying to bother you. You just look like you could use some company." Amara studied his face. He didn't look like he was trying to flirt or scam her. He looked lonely, too. "Okay," she said softly, pointing to the seat next to her. He sat down, leaving space between them. "I'm Julian," he said, holding out his hand. "Amara Jones," she said, shaking his warm hand. "Thanks for stopping. Most people would have just walked by." "Most people probably should," Julian said with a small smile. "My assistant says I get too involved in other people's problems, but I've been where you are. Not the same thing, but I know what it feels like when your world gets turned upside down." Amara sniffed, curious, frightened. "What happened to you?" Julian was quiet for a while, staring at the empty airport. "About a year ago, I found out someone I trusted completely was lying to me about almost everything. It wasn't romantic," he added quickly, "but it was someone I thought was family. It felt like my whole life was built on quicksand." "I'm sorry," Amara said softly. "That sounds awful." "It was," Julian admitted, "but it taught me something. Sometimes betrayal shows you who really cares about you, and who was only there for what you could give them. Julian turned to her, his voice steady. Sometimes the worst heartbreak teaches us what we actually deserve. Something in Amara's heart loosened, just a little. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Julian chuckled, and the sound filled the empty gate. Probably not right now. Right now, it probably just sounds like fortune cookie advice from a random guy at an airport. Amara almost smiled for the first time all night. Kind of. Fair enough, Julian said with a soft grin. Then let me say this instead. Whoever hurt you tonight is an idiot. I don't need to know you to know that. You don't know anything about me, Amara whispered. Maybe I'm terrible. Maybe I deserve this. Julian's face turned serious. Amara, he said softly, King Heck, I've been sitting in this airport for the last hour. I've seen so many people walk past someone who was clearly upset. You know how many people stopped to check if you were okay? He held up his hand. 0, not 1. But when I came over and asked if you were okay, even though you were crying and probably wanted to be alone, you were polite. You even thanked me for stopping. That tells me a lot about what kind of person you are. Amara felt tears start to come again, but this time they weren't only from sadness. You're very kind, she said softly, but you don't have to sit here and try to make me feel better. I'm sure you have somewhere important to go. Actually, I don't, Julian said with a shrug. I'm supposed to get on a late-night flight to New York in about 15 minutes, but honestly, I've been dreading it. Just another business meeting. Another room full of people who only care about what I can do for them. He paused, as if making a decision. Which is why, he said slowly, I'm going to make you an offer that will sound completely crazy. Amara blinked at him. She felt tired. What kind of offer? She asked. Come with me to New York. Amara thought she'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? I'm serious, Julian said, his eyes warm and calm. I have a private jet leaving in 15 minutes. There's plenty of space, and honestly, it seems like you could use a change of scenery. Plus, he smiled softly, I could use the company of someone who feels like a real person, not just another person who wants something from me. You're inviting a total stranger onto your private jet? Amara asked, her voice full of disbelief. Not totally a stranger, Julian said playfully. We shook hands. We know each other's names. We've shared our deepest secrets tonight. He smiled with a twinkle in his eye. We're practically old friends. Amara stared at him, still not sure if he was joking. You're serious? Dead serious. Look, I know it sounds insane, and I know you have no reason to trust me, Julian said gently. But think about the alternative. You sit here all night, feeling sad. Then you go home to your empty apartment and spend the whole weekend wondering what you did wrong. Is that really better than doing something unexpected? His words hit her. That was exactly what she had planned to do. Sit, cry, and replay every moment of her broken relationship with Jude. I don't even know you, she whispered. Yet, Julian said softly. Key word there. Yet. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? You end up in New York instead of crying alone in an airport terminal. Sounds like an upgrade to me. Amara looked around the empty gate area. Her phone was still silent. No new messages from Jude. She thought about her empty apartment in Chicago, about facing her friends and telling them the trip she'd planned with Jude wasn't happening. She thought about the sad looks people would give her and the lonely weekend ahead of her. Then she looked at Julian. His eyes were kind, patient. He was offering her something she'd never done before, a spontaneous adventure with no strings attached. This is crazy, she whispered. The best decisions usually are. Julian said with a smile that made her heart flutter despite her sadness. Amara stared at him, imagining all the things that could go wrong. You know how this sounds, right? A mysterious man with a private jet invites a heartbroken woman to fly across the country with him. This is literally how horror movies start. Julian nodded seriously. You're absolutely right to be careful. If I were you, I'd think the same thing. He took out his phone and showed her the screen. Here's my driver's license, my business card, and my LinkedIn profile. You can call my office, my assistant, even my mom if you want proof I'm not dangerous. Amara leaned in to look at his phone. It said, Julian Thorne, age 29, CEO of Thorne Holdings. His LinkedIn profile showed a Harvard MBA, board positions at several companies, and lots of impressive business details. Thorne Holdings, she read out loud. What kind of business is that? Mostly real estate development, Julian explained. Some tech investments, a few restaurants, nothing too exciting, but it pays the bills. And you just invite strangers on your business trips? Amara asked. Never, Julian said honestly. This is the first time I've ever done this. He ran a hand through his hair, looking a little embarrassed. I know this is weird. I know I might sound crazy, but here's the truth. For 10 years, I've been flying around the country to meetings where everyone just sees me as money. Nobody cares about me as a person. Then tonight, I see you, clearly hurting, and you're still kind to a random stranger. Amara studied his face closely. Instead of danger, she saw something surprising: loneliness. What kind of business meeting? She asked softly. The kind where investors argue about money and pretend to care about the communities we build in, Julian said with a tired voice. I'm trying to get them to approve money for a community center. They keep saying no because it's not profitable. That sounds frustrating, Amara said. It is. Sometimes I wonder if I'm in the wrong business. He looked at her curiously. What do you do when you're not being abandoned at airports? Amara gave a small smile. I'm a pediatric nurse. I work at Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago. I'm in the oncology unit. Julian's face grew serious. That must be so hard. It is, Amara admitted. But it's also the best thing I've ever done. Those kids are so strong, even when they're sick. They remind me what matters, being there for people, helping them feel less alone, and fighting for what's right. Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You know what? Maybe this business meeting isn't as important as I thought. What do you mean? I mean, talking to you for 5 minutes reminded me of what I care about, and it's not sitting in a room arguing about profit margins. He looked right at her. Come with me to New York, Amara. Help me see the city through fresh eyes. Remind me what life feels like. Amara's heart raced. Julian, you can't skip a business meeting because of me. Why not? It's my company. Maybe it's time I start doing what feels right instead of what people expect. He leaned closer. When was the last time you did something spontaneous? I don't think I ever have, she admitted. Maybe that's the problem, Julian said gently. Maybe being too careful is why you were with someone who thought breaking up by text was okay. His words stung, but she knew he was right. Amara had always been careful and responsible. She'd chosen Jude because he seemed safe and steady, but now she saw that wasn't real. I can't just fly to New York with someone I met 20 minutes ago, she said, but her voice was soft, not firm. Why not? It's only a few hours away. You can come back tomorrow night if you want, Julian said. Because it's crazy. Because I don't know you. Because I don't have the right clothes or enough money. Amara, Julian interrupted gently. Those are excuses. The real question is, do you want to go home sad and alone, or do you want to do something brave? Amara looked at her phone again. Still no messages from Jude. She imagined her apartment, her coworkers asking what happened, her friends' pitying looks. Then she imagined New York, the energy, the lights, the possibilities. If I said yes, and I'm not saying I am, she said slowly, what would actually happen? Like, logistically. Julian's face lit up. We fly to New York. I'll get us a hotel with separate rooms, of course. We'll eat great food. You'll see the city in a new way. And I'll probably call my investors and tell them the community center is happening whether they like it or not. And then whatever you want, he said. You can go back to Chicago tomorrow, or stay longer. No strings, no pressure, just two people who needed a change. Amara felt something strange inside. Hope. This is insane, she whispered. Completely insane. Julian agreed with a smile, but sometimes insane is exactly what we need. She closed her eyes, trying to be logical. Every part of her brain screamed, "You don't know this man. This is dangerous. You don't make decisions when you're sad." But another voice whispered, "What if this is exactly what you need?" "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, let's go to New York." Julian's eyes widened in surprise. "But I have conditions," she said quickly. "Separate hotel rooms, separate flights home, and if I want to leave, you help me, no questions asked." "Deal," Julian said instantly. He stood and offered his hand. "Ready for an adventure, Amara Jones?" Amara looked at his hand. She glanced at her suitcase filled with clothes she'd packed for a romantic trip that would never happen. She thought about Jude, probably asleep without a care in the world. Then she imagined New York in the morning. "Ready," she said, standing and taking his hand. They walked through the quiet airport together. As they passed the gate for her original flight, her phone buzzed. A message popped up. "Flight 447 to Paris has departed. Thank you for choosing us." She looked at Julian and realized something. Sometimes the best places are the ones you never planned to visit. The walk to Julian's private jet felt like a dream. The plane was sleek and shiny, glowing softly in the night. A woman in a neat uniform met them at the stairs. "Good evening, Mr. Thorne," she said warmly. "I'm Captain Eva Rostova, and this is my co-pilot, Owen Reed. We'll be taking care of you tonight." "Thank you, Captain," Julian said. "This is Amara Jones. She'll be joining us on the flight to New York." "Welcome aboard, Miss Jones," Captain Rostova said kindly. "Flight time will be about 5 hours. We should arrive around 6 a.m. local time." Amara followed Julian up the stairs of the airplane. Her heart was beating really fast because she felt both excited and scared. The inside of the jet was even more amazing than she imagined. There were soft, cream-colored leather seats that looked like they belonged in a fancy living room, shiny tables, and gentle lights that made everything feel warm and cozy. "This is incredible," Amara whispered as she sat down on one of the soft seats. "It's comfortable," Julian said, sitting across from her. "But I think it's even better when you have good company." As the plane started to move toward the runway, Amara's phone buzzed. She looked down. It was a text from her friend Nina, "House Paris. I want details." Amara froze. How could she explain this? She wasn't in Paris. She was on a private jet with a man she just met, flying to New York. She had made the craziest decision of her life after one of the worst nights of her life. Instead, she typed back, "Still traveling. We'll call you later." Julian noticed her worried face. "Second thoughts?" he asked gently. Amara sighed. "More like reality setting in. I just realized I'll have to explain all this when I get back." "What's there to explain?" "You went on a trip," Julian said, "with someone who isn't my boyfriend of 3 years, she replied. Julian was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask what happened?" "You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but maybe talking about it will help." Amara stared out the window as the plane lifted into the air. She watched the lights of Los Angeles get smaller and smaller. "We were supposed to get engaged," she finally said. "At least I thought we were. Jude, my boyfriend, had been dropping hints for months about our future, about taking the next step. This trip was supposed to be our anniversary celebration. I thought something big was going to happen." "How long were you together?" Julian asked softly. 3 years. We met at a hospital fundraiser. He's a pharmaceutical sales rep, so he was there for work. I was invited by a patient's family. He seemed so charming, so interested in me. He said he'd never met anyone who cared about helping people the way I did. "What changed?" Julian asked. Amara thought for a moment. "I'm not sure if anything changed or if I just started to see things clearly. Lately he was distant. He worked late, canceled dates, and was always on his phone. When I asked, he said he was stressed about work. I thought maybe he was planning something special, like a proposal. Turns out he was planning something, just not what I expected." She gave a bitter laugh. Julian leaned forward. Amara, can I tell you something? And I promise I'm not just saying this to make you feel better. Okay, Amara said quietly. Anyone who could break up with you through a text message doesn't deserve you. I've only known you for 2 hours, but I can already tell you're kind, brave, and thoughtful. If he couldn't see that, he's a fool. Amara felt her eyes fill with tears. You don't know me well enough to say that, don't I? Julian asked gently. You're a pediatric oncology nurse, right? That means you spend your days helping very sick kids and their scared families. You were kind to a stranger. You stopped to help me when I was lost. And then you were brave enough to get on a plane with me, someone you just met. That takes courage. Amara's heart softened. She felt a flicker of something. Not love yet, but interest. So, what do you do when you're not rescuing sad women from airports? She asked with a small smile. Julian chuckled. Mostly, I sit in boardrooms arguing with people about profit margins and community projects. Community projects? My company builds houses and buildings. I try to convince the investors to include things like parks, community centers, and affordable housing. They think I'm silly for caring. Are you? She teased. Probably, but I'd rather care and try to make a difference than be cold and only focus on money. What about you? Why did you decide to help sick kids? Amara thought about it. When I was 12, my little brother got leukemia. He spent 2 years in and out of the hospital. The nurses there weren't just taking care of him, they were taking care of our whole family. They made the scariest time in our lives bearable. Now, he's healthy and in grad school. But I never forgot those nurses. I wanted to be like them. Julian smiled softly. That's why you stopped for me tonight, isn't it? Not because you wanted adventure. You saw someone who needed help. Maybe, Amara said, I just couldn't walk away. And now I'm here, on a plane to New York with someone I met 3 hours ago. This could be the best or worst decision I've ever made. What's your gut telling you? Julian asked. Amara studied him. He had kind eyes and had spent an hour listening to her heartbreak without getting bored. He'd offered her an adventure, not asking for anything in return. My gut says that maybe playing it safe isn't really safe. Maybe it just keeps you stuck with people who don't appreciate you. Julian nodded. Like Jude. Exactly. Amara felt a spark of excitement. Why did you really invite me on this plane? She asked. Don't say it's just because I looked sad. Julian looked out the window, deep in thought. Finally, he said, 3 months ago, I was in a really dark place. Someone, a stranger, helped me when I needed it most. She showed me that sometimes kindness is just giving someone another path when their first one falls apart. I thought you might need another path, too. His words made her heart ache, but in a good way. The worst part, Amara said softly, is thinking about all the signs I ignored. My friends told me something seemed wrong. I felt him pulling away. But I made excuses for him. That's not your fault, Julian said firmly. That's what love does. You gave him the benefit of the doubt. That shows your big heart. The problem isn't you, it's people who don't know how to handle that kind of love. Tears filled Amara's eyes again, but now they weren't just sad tears. How do you always know what to say? I don't, Julian admitted. I'm just saying what I wish someone had told me when my life fell apart. Amara smiled weakly. For the first time in months, she felt something she thought she'd lost. Hope. Not hope for the past, but hope for a brand new future. Thank you for stopping for me tonight, she said, for seeing me when I felt invisible. Thank you for being brave enough to say yes to something impossible, Julian said softly. Amara looked out the window. The city lights below sparkled like fallen stars. Maybe Jude had been right about one thing. This trip would change her life. But not the way he thought. The plane landed in New York with a smooth bump. Amara's stomach dropped. Panic rose in her chest as she realized what she'd done. You okay? Julian asked, seeing her pale face. I think I'm going to be sick, Amara whispered, gripping the armrest tightly. Julian leaned closer. Amara, what's wrong? I just flew across the country with a stranger. I never do things like this. I plan everything. I read reviews for weeks before I book hotels. I make restaurant reservations. I don't just get on planes with strangers. What have I done? My sister will kill me. My boss will fire me. I didn't even call in sick. Look at me, Julian said calmly. Breathe. She met his steady gaze. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it, he said gently. Amara did as he said, and her breathing slowed. Better? No, she said quickly. This is crazy, Julian. I need to go home. Okay, Julian said calmly. If that's what you want, we'll turn around and fly back to Chicago. No questions asked. She blinked. Really? Really, Julian said firmly. No strings attached. If you want to go home, we go home. Something about his calmness eased her panic. You'd really do that? Of course, Julian said. I don't want you to feel trapped or pressured. If this doesn't feel right, we won't stay. Amara closed her eyes. Yes, this was scary. Yes, it was wild, but maybe she wasn't scared because it was dangerous. Maybe she was scared because it was different. Amara's phone buzzed and she looked down. There were 3 missed calls from her sister Nina and lots of worried text messages. Amara, why aren't you answering? I called the hotel in Paris and they said you don't have a reservation. I'm really worried. If you don't call me in an hour, I'm calling the police. Oh no, Amara groaned. My sister thinks I've been kidnapped. Julian, the man sitting next to her, glanced at her phone. You should call her. What are you going to tell her? That I'm in New York with a man I just met? She'll think I'm crazy. Have you lost your mind? Julian teased with a gentle smile. Maybe. Probably, Amara said, feeling a little embarrassed. Sometimes losing your mind a little is exactly what you need, Julian said softly. Before Amara could answer, her phone rang again. Nina's name flashed on the screen. I have to take this, Amara said nervously. Amara! Nina's voice was so loud, Julian could probably hear it too. Where the heck are you? I've been calling for hours. I'm fine, Nina. I'm safe. Safe where? I called every hotel in Paris. None of them know you. And what about Jude? His phone goes straight to voicemail. Amara's heart sank. She had been so caught up in this wild adventure with Julian that she almost forgot why she was here in the first place. Jude isn't here, Amara whispered. What do you mean he's not there? Did his flight get delayed? No, Nina. Jude broke up with me last night in a text message. The line was silent for so long that Amara thought the call had dropped. He did what? Nina's voice was sharp and angry. He sent me a text at the airport saying he couldn't do this anymore. I was waiting to board our flight to Paris, and he just ended it. That son of a... Nina stopped herself. Amara, honey, I'm so sorry. But if Jude isn't there, where are you? Please don't tell me you're wandering around Paris alone. Amara looked at Julian, who was pretending to read something on his phone to give her privacy. I'm not in Paris. I'm in New York. New York? What are you doing in New York? I met someone at the airport. He was flying his private jet here for business, and when he heard what happened, he offered to bring me with him. Silence. Amara Elena Jones, Nina said slowly, using Amara's full name the way their mom used to when they were in trouble. Please tell me you did not get on a plane with a complete stranger. He's not a stranger anymore. We've been talking for hours. He's really kind, Nina. He could be a serial killer. Amara, what were you thinking? I was thinking that my whole life just fell apart and someone gave me a chance to start over, to do something different. By flying to New York with a man you don't know? Nina asked. Tears filled Amara's eyes. I know it sounds crazy, but Nina, I've spent 3 years being careful and responsible, and look where it got me. Maybe I need to take a chance. Nina's voice softened. Honey, I get that you're hurt, but this isn't you. You don't do things like this. You don't make impulsive choices. You don't travel with strangers. Maybe that's the problem, Amara whispered. Being careful got me into a relationship with someone who dumped me over text. Julian glanced at her with something like admiration in his eyes. Look, Nina said. I'm not saying you should come home right now, but I am saying you have to be smart. What's this guy's name? Where are you staying? I need details. Amara looked at Julian. He nodded. His name is Julian Thorne. He owns a development company. And where are you staying? Nina asked. Amara froze. She didn't even know. Julian, where are we staying? The Plaza, Julian said quietly. I'll book separate rooms, of course. The Plaza Hotel, Amara repeated to Nina. Separate rooms. Okay, that's something, Nina said. At least it's a real expensive hotel. Text me the address and his full name. And Amara, I want you to check in with me every few hours, okay? I'm serious. Okay. And honey, I know you're hurting. Jude is a total jerk for what he did. But please, be careful. Promise me. I promise. When Amara hung up, she sat quietly, staring at her phone. Regrets? Julian asked gently. Terrified, Amara admitted, but no regrets. Not yet, anyway. Your sister sounds like she cares about you. She does. She's just worried because this is so not me. I never do stuff like this. What do you usually do when your life falls apart? Julian asked. I analyze what went wrong, make a plan, work harder to fix it. And how's that working for you? Amara blinked at him. Not great, apparently. Julian smiled softly. Sometimes the scariest thing you can do is the thing you need the most. You grow when you step out of your comfort zone, not when you stay in it. Amara looked out the plane window. The New York skyline was coming into view, glowing in the morning light. Somewhere out there was a whole new life she had never imagined. So, what happens now? She asked. Now, we get off this plane, check into the hotel, and figure out your next steps. One at a time, Julian said. Amara took a deep breath. Okay, but Julian? Yeah? If I have another panic attack, you're not allowed to laugh at me. Deal, Julian said with a smile. And Amara, you're braver than you think. As they got their bags and stepped into New York, Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Nina read, "Be safe, but also have the adventure you deserve." Maybe, Amara thought, she could do both. The Plaza Hotel looked like something out of a movie. The shiny crystal lights, the marble floors. It was like stepping into a fairy tale. Except Amara was in a wrinkled sundress with luggage packed for a romantic Paris trip. 2 rooms, please, Julian said to the concierge confidently. Same floor, if possible. The staff treated Julian like a VIP. Amara felt nervous in this fancy place. When the concierge handed her the key to a room that probably cost more per night than she made in a week, she almost asked for a cheaper option. I'll pay you back, she whispered to Julian as they walked to the elevators. Amara, no, this was my idea. You're my guest, Julian said kindly. But I can't let you. You can, and you will, Julian said firmly but kindly. What's the point of having money if I can't use it to make someone's day better? Amara's room was on the 15th floor with a breathtaking view of Central Park. She had never stayed anywhere this fancy. The bathroom was bigger than her bedroom back home in Chicago. She unpacked her suitcase, looking at the dresses she'd packed for Paris dinners and wondering if any of them would fit her New York adventure. Her phone rang. It was Julian. How are you feeling? He asked warmly. Like I'm living in someone else's life, Amara said. This room is amazing. I should take pictures just to prove I was here. Then take pictures. And hey, are you hungry? I know a place with the best pancakes in the city. It's not fancy, just good food and strong coffee. That sounds perfect, Amara said, relieved. I thought you'd suggest some place with a strict dress code I don't have clothes for. Never, Julian chuckled. I want to show you my New York, not the one that's trying too hard to impress. An hour later, they were sitting in a tiny diner in the village. The booth seats were cracked, the coffee mugs didn't match, but the pancakes were fluffy and warm, with real maple syrup. This is more like it, Amara said, cutting her pancakes. I felt like I was in a movie where I didn't know my lines. The plaza can feel like that, Julian admitted. I just wanted you to have a nice place to stay, but I don't want you to feel like you have to be someone you're not. Is this where you usually eat when you're here? Amara asked. Julian laughed. Actually, yes. My assistant always tries to book me at fancy restaurants with celebrity chefs, but I'd rather eat here. The food's better, and you can actually talk without shouting. Amara watched him. He wasn't pretending. He really was relaxed here. Can I ask you something? She said. Go ahead. Why aren't you married? You're successful, kind, and she gestured at his handsome face. You seem to have everything together. What's the catch? Julian stirred sugar into his coffee. Honestly, I think I've been waiting for someone who sees me as more than a bank account with legs. That can't be everyone. You'd be surprised, Julian said. When you have money, it's hard to tell who really likes you and who just likes what you can give them. I've dated women who only cared about being photographed at fancy parties, not about me. It gets lonely. That sounds sad, Amara said softly. It is, but it makes me value realness when I see it, Julian said, meeting her eyes. Like last night, you didn't ask what I do or how much I make. You just trusted me. Maybe I'm just naive. Or maybe you're genuine, Julian said with a smile. After breakfast, they walked through Central Park. The morning air was crisp, and the park was full of joggers, families, and people walking their dogs. I've only been to New York once, Amara said as they strolled by the water. For a nursing conference, I barely saw the city. What did you think? Julian asked. Too loud, too busy, too much everything. She paused. But this is different. It feels peaceful. The park does that, Julian agreed. It's like the city's breathing space. They sat on a bench watching ducks swim and rowers glide across the water. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from her boss read, Hope you're enjoying Paris. See you Monday. Amara froze. I should probably call in sick for Monday, she muttered. I can't exactly tell them I'm in New York because I trusted a stranger. What will you tell them? Julian asked. Food poisoning, Amara said with a small smile. Something believable but not serious. Julian was quiet for a moment. Amara, can I ask you something? He said softly. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Okay, Amara said. Are you happy? Julian asked. I mean, before last night, before everything with Jude, were you happy with your life? Amara stopped and thought. She thought really hard. I thought I was, she said slowly. I had a good job, a safe apartment, and a boyfriend. Everything looked perfect on paper, but I can't remember the last time I felt excited, the last time I did something just because I wanted to, not because it was safe or the right thing to do. Amara looked at Julian. Is it bad to realize my life was fine, but not really alive? Julian shook his head. It's not bad. It's honest, and it's something you can change. How? Amara asked quietly. By doing things like this, Julian said. By saying yes to adventures, even when they scare you. By trusting your heart instead of only following your plans. Amara felt something shift inside her chest, like a door unlocking after years of being stuck. Is that what you do? She asked. I'm trying to learn, Julian said with a small smile. It's hard when you've spent your whole life being careful. They spent the rest of the morning walking through the city. Julian took her to a bookstore he loved as a kid, where he used to wait while his parents shopped. They stopped at a food cart and got hot dogs that tasted better than any fancy restaurant meal Amara had ever had. They went to a farmer's market, and Julian bought her a bunch of bright yellow sunflowers because she had smiled when she saw them. You don't have to buy me things, Amara said shyly when he handed her the flowers. I'm not buying them because I have to, Julian said. I'm buying them because I want to. You smiled, and I like seeing you smile. Amara's cheeks grew warm. Julian, she said softly, this is all so nice, but I don't want you to think I'm here because of your money or what you can give me. I'm here because you were kind to me when I needed it most. Julian stopped walking and turned to face her. Amara, I know why you're here. It's not about money. You're here because you were brave enough to take a chance on something unknown. Standing there on a busy New York street, holding a bunch of sunflowers and looking into the eyes of a man who had appeared in her life like a dream, Amara felt something she hadn't felt in years, the thought that maybe her story was just beginning. They kept walking, laughing as Julian told her about the time he got lost on the subway as a kid. Just as they were heading back to the hotel, Amara's phone rang. She looked at the screen and froze. It was Jude. "You don't have to answer," Julian said softly, noticing her worried face. I need to," Amara said. She swiped to answer. "Hello, Jude." "Amara, thank God." Jude's voice sounded panicked. "I've been trying to call you all morning. Where are you? Nina said you never made it to Paris." "I'm in New York," Amara said. "New York? What are you doing in New York?" "Amara, we need to talk. I made a huge mistake last night. I was scared and panicked, but I didn't mean it. I want to fix this." "You want to fix this? After you broke up with me by text message and left me stranded at the airport?" Amara's voice was sharp. "I know how it looks, but I can explain," Jude said quickly. "I was having second thoughts. Not about you, about the timing. My boss is talking about layoffs. I thought we should wait until things were stable, but I overthought everything and got scared, and wait." "The proposal?" Amara asked in surprise. "I had the ring, Amara. I was going to propose in Paris like you wanted, but I started worrying about money, about if we were ready, and I freaked out." "You had a ring," Amara whispered. "I still have it," Jude said. "Amara, please, come home. We can talk. We can still go to Paris. We can still have everything we planned." Amara looked at Julian, who had stepped back to give her space, but was clearly worried about her. "Jude, you ended things with a text. You let me sit in that airport thinking I wasted 3 years of my life," she said. "I know, I'm so sorry," Jude begged. "People make mistakes when they're scared, right? We can get past this. We love each other." "Do we?" Amara asked softly. "Because someone who loved me wouldn't have done what you did last night." "Amara, please don't throw away 3 years because I panicked. Come home and let's talk face to face." Amara closed her eyes. Her heart felt heavy. She thought of the 3 years they spent together, the ring, the life she thought she wanted, and the one night with a stranger that felt like a new beginning. "I need time to think," she said. "How much time?" "Amara, I love you. I want to marry you. Isn't that what you wanted?" Jude sounded desperate. "I thought it was," Amara whispered. "But Jude, what you did last night changed everything. I can't just pretend it didn't happen." "So what? You're staying in New York with some stranger instead of working things out with me?" Amara's eyes opened. "How do you know I'm with someone?" "Nina told me." "Amara, this is insane. You don't know this guy. He could be dangerous. You're not thinking clearly." "Maybe I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years," Amara said, her voice getting louder. People on the street turned to look. "You called me safe, predictable, boring. You thought you could break up with me over text and I'd just forgive you." "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it is," Amara said firmly. "You thought I'd be so desperate to get married that I'd forgive anything." Julian came to stand beside her, quiet but protective. "Amara, you're being emotional," Jude said. "Come home and we'll talk rationally." "I am being rational," Amara said calmly. "For the first time in 3 years, I'm thinking about what I actually want, not what I'm supposed to want." "And what you want is to throw away everything for some guy you just met?" Jude snapped. Amara looked at Julian. His eyes were patient and kind. "What I want is to be with someone who wouldn't abandon me at an airport, someone who sees me as more than a safe choice, someone who makes me feel alive." "Amara, I have to go, Jude," she interrupted. "I'll call you when I'm ready." She hung up before he could respond, her hands shaking. "You okay?" Julian asked softly. "He had a ring," Amara whispered. "He was going to propose. He says he panicked." Julian was quiet. "What do you think?" "I think he's telling the truth. I think he panicked. And I think he does want to marry me," Amara said, looking at Julian. But I also think he's right about one thing. This isn't me. The old me would already be on a flight home. The new me... Julian watched her carefully. And the new you? The new me thinks that being left at that airport was the best thing that's ever happened to me, Amara said softly. Julian smiled, but there was caution in his eyes. Amara, don't make decisions based on me. This is about you, not choosing between two men. I know, Amara said. That's what scares me. She sat down on a bench, feeling exhausted. For 3 years, I thought I knew what I wanted. Marriage, kids, a house in the suburbs. But being here with you, doing things I never imagined, feeling things I didn't know I could feel, what if I was wrong about everything? Julian sat beside her. What if you were? Would that be so terrible? Maybe you didn't waste 3 years. Maybe you're just growing. People change, Amara. That's not wrong. It's human. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Jude. I'm booking a flight to New York. We need to talk in person. She showed Julian. He frowned. Do you want to see him? I don't know, Amara said. Part of me feels like I owe him that. Part of me knows it'll just confuse me. What does your gut say? Julian asked. Amara closed her eyes. Deep inside, a small voice spoke. My gut says I'm not ready to go back to my old life. Not yet. Then don't, Julian said gently. You don't owe anyone anything. Not Jude, not your family, not even me. You only owe yourself the chance to figure out what you want. Amara looked at him, this man who had stepped into her life like an unexpected gift. What if what I want is impossible? What if it's not? Julian said. Amara spent the next hour walking through Central Park alone. She needed space to think without Julian's presence making her feel safe. Her phone buzzed nonstop, calls from Jude, texts from Nina, even a message from her mom who had heard the drama. Amara ignored them all. She only wanted to know one thing. What did she want? Not what other people wanted. Not what looked good. Not what was right. When Amara finally returned to the hotel, Julian was sitting in the lobby with a book and a cup of coffee. He looked up and smiled gently. How are you feeling? He asked. Clearer, Amara said, sitting across from him. I need to tell you something. Julian put down his book and looked right at Amara. He wanted to listen carefully. I called Jude back, Amara said softly. I told him not to come to New York. I told him that what he did last night wasn't just a mistake. It showed me something important. It showed me that he sees me as someone who will always stay, no matter how badly he treats me. Someone safe and predictable who won't ever complain or ask for anything. And then I realized that's exactly how I've been living. Safe, predictable, always scared to ask for what I really want because I was too afraid of being disappointed. She looked Julian in the eyes. But you know what? Being disappointed is better than never trying at all. Julian leaned forward. What are you saying, Amara? I'm saying that 24 hours ago, I thought I knew exactly what my life was supposed to be, Amara said. But now I'm sitting in a hotel lobby in New York with a man I barely know, and I've never felt more like myself. I don't want to go back to Chicago. Not yet. Julian raised his eyebrows. What do you want to do? Amara smiled a little. I want an adventure. I want to see what happens when I stop planning every little thing and start trusting my heart. I want to find out who I am when I'm not trying so hard to make everyone else happy. Julian's face lit up. And how long do you want this adventure to last? I don't know, Amara said honestly. Maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe until I figure out what comes next. But Julian, this isn't about choosing you over Jude. This is about choosing myself for the first time in my life. Julian nodded. I understand. And Amara, I think that's the bravest thing you could ever do. Something warm and calm filled Amara's chest, a feeling she hadn't felt in years. There's something else I need to tell you, Amara whispered. What's that? Julian asked gently. I'm falling for you, she admitted. Her cheeks turned pink. I know it's fast and kind of crazy, but I can't pretend it's not true. You make me feel like the best version of myself. You see me in a way no one else ever has, and I know we don't know each other well yet, but Julian reached across the table and held her hand. Amara, I've been falling for you since the moment you trusted me enough to get on that plane. You're kind and brave and so real. You make me want to be a better man. Really? She asked softly. Really, Julian said with a smile. Sometimes the best things in life happen fast. Sometimes you meet someone and you just know they'll change your life. Amara felt happy tears in her eyes. So what happens now? Now, Julian said, squeezing her hand, we take things one day at a time. We explore the city, we get to know each other, we see where this goes, and if it doesn't work out, at least we tried. He smiled warmly. But, Amara, I have a really good feeling about us. Amara's phone rang, breaking the sweet moment. Nina's name flashed on the screen. I should answer this, Amara said. She's probably worried. Amara, Nina's voice was full of panic. I just talked to Jude. He said you broke up with him. What's going on? I'm figuring my life out, Amara said calmly. And yes, Jude and I are done. For good this time. But he said he had a ring. He said he was going to propose. I know, Amara said softly. But Nina, he also abandoned me at an airport through a text message. A ring doesn't erase that. Nina was quiet. Are you sure, Amara? You two were together for 3 years. I'm sure, Amara said. And Nina, I'm staying in New York for a while. How long is a while? Nina asked. I don't know yet, Amara admitted. I'm taking time off work. I want to see what happens when I stop planning everything so carefully. This doesn't sound like you at all, Nina said. Amara glanced at Julian, who gave her an encouraging smile. Maybe that's the point, Amara said softly. The old me wasn't happy. And this guy, Julian, what's his story? Nina asked. His story is that he's kind and thoughtful, Amara said with a smile. He makes me laugh. When I was at my lowest point, he gave me hope instead of pity. He's helping me remember who I really am. Nina sighed. You sound different. Happier. I feel different, Amara said. I feel like myself for the first time in years. Okay, Nina said softly. But Amara, please be careful and call me every day. I mean it. I will, Amara said warmly. I love you, Nina. I love you too, Nina said. And if this Julian guy hurts you, I'll fly to New York and kick his butt, Amara laughed. Noted. After the call, Julian smiled. Your sister sounds fierce. She is, Amara said with a grin. She's going to want to meet you someday. I'd like that, Julian said. I want to meet the people who matter to you. Amara's heart skipped. Julian, what happens when this adventure ends? When I have to go back to real life? Julian thought for a moment. What if real life doesn't have to be like before? What if you can build a life that actually fits who you are? Is that what you did? Amara asked. I'm trying, Julian admitted. It's hard, but it's worth it. And Amara, no matter what happens between us, I'm here to help you figure out what you really want. No pressure, no expectations, just support. Warmth bloomed in Amara's heart. You know what I want right now? What? Julian asked. I want to order room service and watch silly movies all night, Amara said with a smile. I want to pretend tomorrow doesn't exist and just be here with you. That sounds perfect, Julian said with a big smile. As they walked toward the elevator, Amara glanced at her reflection in a lobby mirror. She looked different. Her eyes were brighter, her posture straighter, her smile real and full of joy. She looked like someone who had finally woken up after a long sleep. Julian, she said as the elevator doors closed. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For giving me a different path when mine fell apart. For reminding me that I'm braver than I thought. Julian held her close. Thank you for saying yes to something impossible. As the elevator rose, Amara realized that love stories don't always start with love at first sight. Sometimes they start with kindness, with someone noticing another's pain and choosing to help. Sometimes a stranger's kindness grows into something beautiful and real. Amara was ready to see how beautiful it could become. 6 months later, Amara stood in the bright, cheerful waiting room of a brand new children's clinic in Brooklyn. Julian was reading a story to a group of giggling kids. The clinic was everything they dreamed of, a place where families could get good health care even if they couldn't pay much, a place where kids felt safe instead of scared. Amara never went back to Chicago. She got a new job helping poor communities and found a passion for healthcare she didn't know she had. Her little apartment in Brooklyn was filled with sunlight, and every morning she woke up excited for the day. "Ready to go home?" Julian asked as he joined her by the window. "Ready," Amara said, taking his hand. As they stepped outside into the New York evening, Amara thought about that night at the airport when her world had crumbled. She'd thought it was the end of everything. But really, it had been the start of her best adventure yet. Sometimes, the worst moments lead to the best changes. Sometimes, getting lost is the only way to find yourself. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to say yes to something impossible, you find out that impossible was exactly what you needed all along. Have you ever had a moment that felt like an ending but was really a beginning? Hit the like button if you believe in second chances and adventures. Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear about the time you took a big leap and it changed your life. Remember, your story isn't over. It might be just beginning.